Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the post-lunch session. We'll try to keep this panel as exciting as possible. So before I deep dive, a quick show of hands to all of you. How many of you all are platform engineers in this room? Or as a designation, have platform engineers? Cool. 1 year ago, how many of you had platform engineer in your designation? Yeah, a few hands. So I know that the industry has come a long way since having platform engineer as an official title for all of us. So today what we are going to discuss is similar, exactly this, how you get on to the platform engineering space and then move on from just as a practice or as a discussion which was part of Hallways to a dedicated co-located event as well as KubeCon, and then how you can take it up in your career as well. So I'm Atul. I'm one of the co-organizers for the Platform Engineering Technical Community Group. And I'm also one of the contributors to the CNPA certification exam that the community helped build along with the Linux Foundation. I'm not here alone. I've got some fantastic panelists with me here. So we'll quickly go through everyone and let them introduce themselves. So I'll probably start with Christopher. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to us?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Christophe Sauthier. I am the training and certification lead for the CNCF, which means that basically I am in charge of defining the overall training and certification strategy for the CNCF, finding the right topic, obviously, things that will be interesting for you or for the overall community. Trying also to find the right person to work on that, because as you can imagine, we are not doing the certification on our own. We always work with the community. We have a good panel here. We'll discuss that a bit later. And once the certification has been created by the community and also in coordination with the Linux Foundation Education, my role is to make sure that we are correctly doing some marketing around that, making sure that the certification is known, that it's still reflecting what you are expecting. And at the end, working with all the people who took the certification. So I'm leading the KubeCon program that maybe you've heard of. So yeah, that's my role.
Great. Thank you so much, Christopher. Moving on, Faseela, who's also wearing multiple hats this time around at KubeCon. You're the co-chair. How did you get pulled into this, and how do you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, Atul. So my association with this whole thing has started very early, like in 2016 or 2017, when I was working on developing some networking plugin for Kubernetes. Even though I had hands-on experience, when I was moving to a full-time platform engineering job, the first thing I did was to take the CKA exam. So it's not about replacing my experience or anything, but it gave me like a way to structure my knowledge and validate myself. It clearly made a difference. Now I'm in the CNCF TOC, the Technical Oversight Committee. So it gives me like a front row seat to evaluate how this space is fast evolving, and contributing to the certification exam. CNPA was like an immediate next step for me. And I'm also the KubeCon, Cloud Native Con co-chair. So I know like how popular this platform engineering track has become now. It's like the most popular one with like maximum number of submissions. So it's definitely rewarding to be able to shape that career path for platform engineering and contribute to this exam.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us here. I know we all have to take a masterclass from you to understand how do you, work with so many things.
Yeah, but actually it's very simple. You make your first contribution to the CNCF. All other opportunities, keep unfolding before you, like in million other ways. So just make that first step. That's it.
Great, perfect. Thank you. So moving on to Chris, whom I think doesn't need any introduction, but quick question to you. Do you ever sleep? The amount of work that you do, you need to answer that first.
Thank you. Yes, I got 7 hours last night.
Wow.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Great. So yeah, why don't you tell everyone
about the rest of the week, right?
Yes.
Parties start tonight, but
yeah.
No, there's a lot going on. Hi, I'm Chris Plank. I work for one of the top 4 banks in the UK. I co-lead a Platform as a Product initiative, trying to transform platform engineering and what we do for public and private cloud. And as Atul said, I'm also one of the co-leads of the Platform Engineering Technical Community Group. There's a lot that we're doing this week. I talked about it earlier on this morning. Lots of meetups. We launched our platform maturity assessment tool this morning. So if you haven't seen that, the links are kicking about. Go and check that out. We're here trying to just help the community. That's what we're all about. And this is a big part of it, right? Yep. Trying to give back, trying to kind of shape the what is platform engineering. You know, how do we have some level of certification and some common understanding of what that even means, right? And then how can people benchmark where they're at?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Chris. So we also had another person on the panel who was supposed to be here, Turja. Apparently, he is not well, so he couldn't be here amongst all of us. But yes, we three are here, and we would like to start by addressing the elephant in the room. You know, being someone who has been active within the platform engineering community, myself and all of us, one of the questions that we have often heard from everyone is, what exactly is platform engineering? And I'm quite sure that a lot of you over here would have had that question sometime before coming to this session, or even you might have the question even now as well. Is it DevOps? Is it DevOps plus? Is it DevOps rebadged? Is it just marketing? So let us start by addressing that big elephant in this room. So I would start with Chris on what are your thoughts on what exactly platform engineering is?
It's an engineering. It's the next stage on from DevOps.
Okay.
Right. So DevOps is very human-centric. I think now what we're trying to do, the things that we're talking about, we're really starting to talk about like platform as a product, product-oriented thinking. Start thinking about how we can build platforms that can help raise everyone up. We had a good conversation this morning and at lunchtime, kind of talking about the problem. You know, there was a survey done recently. That said somewhere less than 40% of the time is all developers are actually spending writing code, writing like, say, Java code. The rest of the time they're doing platform or infrastructure type stuff, right? And that's, I think, because in the DevOps era, the whole mantra was shift things left, and we shifted everything left. And then we started hearing a few years ago people saying, shift things down, shift it down on the platform team. I think now what we're seeing with the rise of GitOps and the evolution away from DevOps is much more into that platform engineering approach where that's our job. Let us focus on the infrastructure stuff. Let us help. We'll do that, and we'll do it in a very consistent way, and then you can focus on your code side of things. And a lot of the things that we're talking about, whether it's inner sourcing, co-contribution, there's lots of different parts that make up a platform. So it's not just about the infrastructure. But we want, a lot of the infrastructure people want to take on a lot of that, right? Rather than pushing it to the developers. Because end of the day, if it's taking them 9 months to get something done and they need to know about AWS and Terraform and Kubernetes, and that's not their core competency, right? Their core competency is knowing about Java and Spring and stuff like that. So maybe they want to explore that stuff rather than exploring the other stuff that we can do that heavy lifting on.
Sure, perfect. Christopher, do you want to add a few things on this, on how do you see platform engineering as different from DevOps?
I'm not a platform engineer expert, as Chris can be. But from my point of view, platform engineering separates itself from DevOps a bit because it seems to be more to a crossroads to different tools for sure, but also different approaches. And yeah, so that's the main difference for me. It feels that platform engineering is way more global than the DevOps could be. So that's the big difference that I see from my point of view, because it tries to tackle more points, more to solve more issues, and to be more aligned with the current approach that we have, that when we are developing application and the platform that they rely on.
Interesting. I think I really like the point that you mentioned about how DevOps was more human-centric and how we need to, platform engineering is more about the tools and the more about practices, and then how, we just left everything there, and then we are trying to stabilize things when it comes to platform engineering. So, taking this to the next level, I think while we discussed the actual difference between DevOps and platform engineering as such, what are the things that you feel like are the actual problems that DevOps, platform engineering actually solves?
We're trying to, like, I call it flattening the triangle, right? You know, in the past, in DevOps-centric teams, platform engineering teams, they'd probably do everything on the platform themselves, right? So they would build it, they would run it, they would support it. And in this platform era, we're really trying to flatten that into the platform. And we're trying to move the platform to kind of a way that others can contribute to solving the problems, right? You don't need to solve everything yourselves. What we saw with, especially in larger organizations with lots of different platform engineering teams, you had a lot of repetition. You had the same teams trying to solve the same problems a different way because they had to. Maybe that was interfacing with, I don't know, ServiceNow, or, you know, come up with their own CI/CD pipelines and lots of these different things that they had to do. Well, in this new world, right, they can just contribute their building block. And we can have other teams taking those building blocks and creating new, innovative products with those. So instead of them having to run the platform like they did in the past and everything about that platform, they can actually just contribute these kind of building blocks, right? Where everything's been baked in, whether that's the security guide rails or the controls or, you know, the smarts that the humans used to do. I think we were talking at lunch about, you know, Bob, the guy who used to check that everything was correct. He used to be the gatekeeper, right? Well, we can do that with policies now and tools like Caverno and stuff, right? So I think we're trying to change away from, you know, that human-centric approach to get it in those building blocks, get those out there. Ultimately, the problem we're trying to solve is speed to market. It's always speed to market, always has been. Our number one problem, doesn't matter what we've called it through the eras, right? It's always been about getting the infrastructure and those services out to people to consume as fast as possible. And then how do you maintain those? And if they're all doing it themselves in a separate way, then there's an awful lot of snowflakes out there that have got to be maintained, and how do you maintain different pipelines and all that? I think with platform engineering, right, we've managed to come up with focus on the product, update all the instances. So all this fleet management and all the concepts we're coming out with now and the GitOps and the declarative approach, all of those things that we understand, developers don't really need to understand that. They just say, I would like one of those, please. And if we can get it really simple and just like buying a telephone off Apple, right? You know, from buying an iPhone, I'd like one of those, please.
Right. Yeah, I think you know, we have had similar discussions within our community meetings as well earlier, where we focused on exactly the problems that platform engineering helps us solve. So, you know, Chris spoke about standardization, right? That is one thing that platform engineering brings into places, because we have seen multiple developer teams building their own scripts, doing the same things, and then all of them scattered everywhere. So, you know, standardizing all of them, enabling self-service. I think that's a very you know, central aspect of any platform offering, that, you know, developers are able to you know, request instances, request services that they need, instead of waiting for multiple days for Bob to actually respond to their you know, request. So now, while we have understood what platform engineering is and how it is you know, different from DevOps, let us get into the next phase of discussion, where we want to focus more on what is the gap that we see in the market when it comes to hiring folks for platform engineering. You know, there are a lot of designations there. You know, I can keep adding words within the designation and make it a couple of lines of designation, but then what exactly are we looking for when it comes to hiring platform engineers, or at least converting folks into platform engineering teams, right? So before I go to Chris, because, you know, Chris has already spent a lot of time working with large teams and then hiring folks, I would like to take input from Christophe first, then we'll check with Faseela, and then come to Chris to understand how things are. So Christophe, how have you seen when it comes to the industry and the skill gap for platform engineering?
Before talking no, yeah, sorry. Before talking about the particular thing about platform engineering skill gaps, I think there is one thing that I really want to clarify here. Getting a certification will never get you a new job. No, I never thought that. I never think that. I never said that. I really think getting a certification is something that will help you to show some knowledge. You are demonstrating that you have this knowledge. We will discuss for sure in depth what are the differences with our certification, what are the differences with CNPA for sure, CNPE, we'll discuss that too. and what is the approach of certification for Linux Foundation and CNCF. That's for sure. But as a general matter, getting certification won't get you a new job. And if anybody told you something different, is lying to you. And I'm leading the certification team for the CNCF. So, but I really think getting a certification will help you put your foot in the door. And you will then be able to demonstrate your knowledge. Let's say that it will help you pass some filters. That's how I think things. And yeah, so that's something I really wanted to say about hiring. I will just go back to what I said earlier about platform engineering. Platform engineering as a domain is something that covers a huge quantity of different domains. So are we able to have certification on all of those domains? Not yet. Yes, we do have quite a number of certifications at the CNCF, but are we able to cover everything? No. And most of it, are we able to, do we have something about the glue that will gather all those concepts? No. Because yes, you can have an IDP, that's great. You can, we have a certification on Backstage, terrific. But how do you apply this knowledge to build your own elements that will help you to achieve your platform engineering goals? So that is something that was not really covered previously, and that was not covered on the hiring process, because, okay, people can tell you, okay, I know Backstage, okay, that's great, but how do you apply that? And how can you show me that what you know about Backstage will help you achieve what I will expect you to do for this platform engineering role? And that's really something that was, I think, missing on the domain today.
Great. Faseela, so you have been a part of this industry for a really long time. You started contributing and then now you're here. So, and I'm sure you would have seen adoption of a platform in some way or the other at your workplace as well. So what are your 2 cents on this?
Yes, since your question was majorly from the hiring perspective, what I would say is the gap is not about not knowing about the tools, so people know about the various tools available, but the gap is in understanding how this whole thing works end to end, right? So, designing and operating a platform end to end. That's what usually candidates are missing. So candidates can talk very in detail about Kubernetes, CI/CD, and many other things. But what we really need are like engineers who can think like a platform, connecting automation, observability, security, developer experience, and everything together. So that's exactly where the CNPA exam comes into picture. It really helps you not just validate your tools knowledge, but it really have like the curriculum required to connect all the things together and get that end-to-end holistic view.
So it's all about the glue that puts everything together. Chris, what have you seen over the years being part of building such teams and getting newer folks onto the team?
Yeah, I mean, for our organization, this was brand new. I joined the architecture and patterns team in 2023. I'd come from the #1 fintech in the world, and I had a very successful platform engineering team there. But I'd been exposed to the CNCF mindset when I changed job, and there were all these new companies that I was hearing about, all these new technologies. There's over 200 projects right on a landscape that you all know now. And there were different concepts that people were starting to talk about in 2023. We had the first platform con, and as Matt said earlier, the first platform engineering day was in Paris in, I think, 2024. And we've been having these since. This is what, now the 4th one? A lot of people coming together in the community and talking about things that were brand new. So the whole term platform engineer, I think when I started, it was typically referring to a particular platform. Like, it's the OpenShift team, it's the PaaS team, it's the database team, it's the blah, blah, blah team. And so all their learnings were all based on that one technology stack, right? Now we're talking about over 200 projects, and we're talking about a capability and different learning path levels that cover lots of different technologies and about how you use them and how you adapt to them. And then, things like the platform maturity model, being aware of that. If you were just an OpenShift guy before, probably wasn't relevant, right? But now things like that are. So there's all these new resources and things that came out, and I think the great thing about the CNPA is it's a way of guiding people to all these different things that are out there, learning about all of those. We had a part of the whole beta process we went through with the team at the CNCF. We had some of the people in our organization sit the beta, and one person in particular gave me some feedback that said, they were relatively new into the job. They were a junior engineer, they'd only been in the role maybe 18 months or so, but I let them assess where they were at and where they thought they were at, and it validated actually that the progress that they were making. It was something that let them gauge themselves where they were at, and if they failed it, they could reset it again, because it would have given them a pointer as to the things to go and look at, the things to spend time on. So I think that was really valuable, right? Is it can help level set, it can help, because it's a very broad term, right? What is a platform engineer? Platform engineer of what? It can mean so many things in different organizations.
Great. I think, yes, platform engineering is still in the nascent stage, but then it's evolving quite quickly, and we have seen that in the last few KubeCons in terms of the interest that the community has in the field. So while all of us have addressed this particular certification and question already while we were discussing, quick show of hands, how many of you all are like CKA, CKAD certified here? Anyone? Yeah, we still have a good number of people. So I think a lot of you might have questions, especially coming here or talking about platform engineering, that why do I need to do another certification now? Wasn't CKA or CKAD enough? Because I'm sure, I'm not certified in any of those, but I'm sure that it's very difficult to clear both the certifications. So while we touched upon it in bit by bit, I think I'll target this to Christopher and ask, why do you think this certification was needed in the first place, especially while we are having so many of them already?
I think I have some issues. Okay, first we have to discuss the certified, as you said. But as I said, having some project-oriented certification is great. That's what we used to do. You mentioned CKA, you mentioned CKD. Those are clearly oriented to Kubernetes. But what about the overall glue about that? What about the overall platform approach? And this is something that was lacking. And we all saw the huge growth of the platform engineering community as part of the CNCF. We've all been witness of all those fully packed sessions and everything during all KubeCons. So we said, okay, we need to find a way to help people to demonstrate those skills on that topic, not just on the individual project, but really on the overall approach. So that's why we started to think about that. And we did that the way we are always doing, which means no vendor lock-in. That's obvious for us. Community-led, yes. All three of you took part of the creation of the certification. And you are all witness to say, okay, nobody is trying to push, and nobody can push their own vendor-oriented approach or product within a certification, because you have whatever you are doing, it will be reviewed by someone else. And actually, it will be reviewed by two different people. So if you've done something which is just pushing your own company, or your own project, or your own team, okay, that's great, you spend some time on that, but it won't make the cut. So too bad for you. So you know that's from the start, you know that's from the beginning of the creation to take part of that. So we said, okay, we want to maintain that level of great certification with, which are created within the Linux Foundation education team with a following of scientific approach. So they are proved to be valid. And this is something that we really insist. and Amy June is doing a terrific job on that. And yeah, so we really wanted to bring that level of, I would say, excellence to this kind of certification like we did before with the other thing. So that's why we felt we needed to create that. And yeah.
Amy June ran a really tight ship, right? all those things that you talked about, like, you know, we were concerned as a community when we first heard the CNCF announce this, that would all the vendors jump in? Would it be very vendor driven, right? So we were all very keen to see a lot of community contribution. Key people from the community, people who have written some of the books, the blog posts, stood up on stage here. And I think you guys really doubled down on making sure that you had lots of people out in the community involved, helping write the questions, but also review the questions. Yeah. Not everyone is technical enough to like write some of the other Kubernetes exam questions, right? But in this one, in our world, we were able to all contribute and actually say, we don't like that question, we don't like the way that's written. You know, we went through a number of cycles every day. You know this, Amy June was running all these sessions that we'd jump on the call and we'd use the fantastic tools that you guys have got behind the scenes that no one will get to see. The amount of work that went into that was phenomenal. I mean, the hundreds and hundreds of questions.
And we ended up with the participation of something like 50 different companies who took part at the creation of this CNPA exam. So that's also one of the things we wanted to bring to this domain, which was, okay, the community as a whole is going to that direction. We will reflect that in an exam. So that was really something that matters to us a lot.
But you've done it in the CNPE as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was just taking the example of CNPA earlier, but yeah, CNPE. Okay, so if you're not familiar with that, we have CNPA that we launched 6 months ago. That was in London, that was officially launched, which is the Cloud Native Platform Engineer Associate exam. So that's a multiple choices exam that you can take when you are, let's say, 6 months, when we have 6 months experience into that kind of role. And we are announcing tomorrow that we are launching CNPE, which is the advanced one, which will be a practical-based exam. So just like you did for CKA, if you have CKA, we will ask you to solve some real case scenario and to tell you, okay, I want to do this thing for my company, do that now. And so you will be facing your laptop and you will have to solve that. And so that will be launched tomorrow. And so yeah, that was exactly the same approach, following the same kind of processes involving community and no vendor lock-in. That was the main thing for us.
Interesting. I think we delved into a very good question for the next one that that I had to discuss was, what was the most difficult part when it came to contributing to the exam certification, right? So Chris has already answered that. Faseela, do you want to add quick 2 cents?
Yeah, so the most difficult part is especially was like, we know that there are several tools and several projects under the CNCF who are like solving many of these challenges of platform engineering. So the most difficult task was to find the right balance across all of these things to ensure that everything is included, and we find the right balance, I would say.
Absolutely. I think that's one good thing that all of us actually experienced where at the initial stages of building the certification. Someone was like, let's test the people on Backstage, and then someone else says, but not everyone uses Backstage, right? So then we need to look at things that everyone works on, and it's standard for everyone. So I think that was one of the hardest part, but then I think we did come out well when it comes to the certification as such. I've seen a lot of people take the certification. Chris has already mentioned that a lot of people from his team took the beta exam as well. And so before we actually close, we wrap up, I think we have had a fairly good discussion, and I see the timer here. Quick 2 things from all of you, quick inputs on 2 things. First one is, what are the career paths that you see now on in the next couple of years, especially in this field that would be coming up? And second, what are the 2 important skills that you would suggest for anyone in this room to have to transition into this role or to excel into this role? Would you like to go first?
I can.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Faseela.
No, for the next 2-3 years, if you're asking me like what the trends will be, it will be like the platform engineers who can design a platform with security in mind, cost optimization, and sustainability. I would say they will be shaping the future of cloud-native platforms. For example, for AI, ML, projects like KServe, Kflow, cost optimization with open cost and open telemetry for sustainability, Kepler and KEDA. So some of these things are already hinted in the CNPA, but you will have to gain more knowledge on some of these projects probably for the future. Yeah.
Interesting. Christopher.
Because of the large panel domains and competencies you need to have, I think you need to be open-minded to experiment. And you need to have this willing to continue to discover new stuff. So that's really something that really struck me when we started to work on that, is that you cannot just rely on the project you know. You have to open to the other project and try to find the good balance between stuff that you know, that you don't know, that you will have to learn to achieve what you want to do. So that's really something that I have in mind. And obviously, experiment, because getting this kind of experience is what will help you to, for sure, take some certification, but also to be able to demonstrate your knowledge in this domain.
Interesting. Chris, final thoughts.
Two things.
Sure.
Keep things simple, right? I think the first thing is, just because there's all these tools out there in the CNCF landscape doesn't mean you need to use them, right? Controversial, like I said this morning,
yes,
right?
Yes.
You heard me talk about this morning. I'm at a Kubernetes conference. Kubernetes isn't always the answer, right? So as a platform engineer, you need to focus on that business requirement and think about the simplest way of doing it, the most efficient way. You don't always have to play with the latest technology, as long as you're solving the problems that your business, especially your consumers, are asking for, right? And focus on that. And then use learning paths and use structured learning to, as you said, innovate and experiment and play with other things and bring it together in all the things that we talk about, you know, all the different concepts of platform engineering, coming up with components, coming up with products, trying things out. You can still do that. You can have structured learning to do that, time each week or time each month to do that.
And if I may, when you're doing this kind of learning and this kind of experimentation, failing should be an option.
Yeah, that's how we all learn, right?
Right.
Yeah, because failing will help you understand what you've worked on, and actually you might have a better understanding of what you did when you failed, just when you have everything that works perfectly from the first time. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a great input from everyone. So thank you so much. I think we'll wrap up this session today. We all were excited not just to create the certification, but to create a shared language for all of you. There's a QR code. You can scan if you're interested to take the exam, and all of us will be around here if you want to know more about the field or the certification. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you so much, panelists, for being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.